Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take some of the most complex, sometimes chaotic source material we can find. Could be history, could be science.
Or like today, a work of fiction that is so layered it almost feels more real than history.
It really does. And today we have something that is truly an outlier. It's this incredible document called The Arkansas Abides.
And it asks this wonderfully bizarre question. What if you took the whole philosophy of abiding from, 1990s Los Angeles?
Right, the whole Lebowski ethos.
Exactly, and you transplanted it into the, let's call it the unforgiving, muddy reality of 1895, Ashley County, Arkansas.
That specific combination is just, it's why we had to do this. I mean, for anyone out there who gets that very particular grounded kind of surreal grimness you find in Southern writers.
Oh, absolutely, like Charles Portis.
Exactly like Portis. If you mix that with this almost spiritual quest for domestic tranquility, this is it. This is your nirvana.
We're diving into what the source calls the post-Reconstruction Great Wilderness. And you have to picture this place. It's defined by thick, relentless timber, a government so thin you can't even see it.
And mud. The sources are very specific about the mud. It's this heavy, soul-sucking gumbo clay.
So our mission today isn't just to, summarize the plot. It's to really pull apart the weirdness, the surprising historical connections, and the very dark, deep comedy in this Southern fried road trip.
It's a total immersion. It's a world where this high-minded existentialism just slams right into the price of chewing tobacco and the emotional dignity of a pig.
And what kicks off this whole magnificent journey?
A soiled rug.
A soiled rug. It's a domestic tragedy that is so common it just resonates across the centuries.
So we meet our protagonist, Elam Dud. He is the abider. He's a man whose greatest physical effort is like lifting his cup of chicory coffee. He prefers to take his leisure in a, shall we say, a somewhat moth-eaten chenille robe.
Yes. And Dude's rug, which the text is very clear, really tied the room together. It has been violated.
Violated is the right word.
Micturated upon is the source's phrase.
Even better.
By young Treehorn, who is the son of the powerful local timber speculator. And the replacement rug, this beautiful new Persian textile, is waiting for him. But it's inaccessible. It's at this long-dead trading post called Marie Céline Landing.
So this very simple quest to restore the sanctity of his living room, that's what launches him directly into the path of industrial capitalism and philosophical nihilism.
It's a lot to hang on one rug.
It is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the team, the unit that makes this journey, because they are the engine of all the chaos. First, you have Elam Dud.
Good?
He's not looking for adventure. He's not looking for change. He wants restoration. The world is trying to force him into action, but his only real goal is to, quote, occupy the space he was in until the chaos just goes away.
And his drink of choice, his replacement for the White Russian, it's this local concoction of corn whiskey, very strong chicory coffee, and goat's milk.
Which is just the perfect metaphor, right? It's this blend of attempted luxury, the milk, and just raw frontier necessity, the moonshine.
And then leading the charge, or maybe fighting an invisible war on Dud's behalf, is Watcher Sobek.
Watcher.
The source gives us his whole resume. Vicksburg veteran, ex-Confederate soldier, a man whose mind operates entirely on military strategy, perimeter defense.
And rules. The absolute sanctity of the rules.
Yes. He is aggression personified. He carries this truly fearsome piece of hardware, a heavy caliber Webley Bulldog revolver, and he doesn't treat it like a sidearm for defense. It's more like a tool for immediate preemptive justice.
And then, of course, the sidekick.
Yeah.
The poet of the group, Donnie Ray.
Donnie Ray. He is just perpetually out of his depth. His consciousness seems to just drift between, what's happening right in front of him and this glorious imaginary future that involves lanes and pins and strikes.
And he's always muttering these cryptic, completely context-free phrases like, I am the walrus.
Which serves as this kind of bewildered Greek chorus to the whole mad enterprise.
And we absolutely cannot forget the supporting cast, the livestock.
The livestock are critical. They bring this whole other layer of physical comedy and, frankly, psychological complexity.
Okay, so first you've got Bronchi the donkey.
Whose pace is described as the exact speed of a regional probate hearing.
Then General Beauregard, a red pile rooster. Very large, very aggressive, and seems to be allergic to people.
And finally, the most psychologically fascinating creature on the trail, Okra, the specie gold swine.
The specie gold swine. And Okra isn't just a pig. He's a documented medical marvel.
He suffers from acute, crippling anxiety, which means he requires his own set of luxury items on this trek through the wilderness.
Which are,
Velvet bedding and digestive biscuits.
of course.
Non-negotiable. These are logistical burdens you have to factor in. So this unit, the abider, the paranoid soldier, the confused poet, and the high-maintenance livestock, they set off into the chaos.
Okay, let's unpack this environment that Dud is trying so desperately not to interact with. Ashley County, 1895. This is that key moment just before the Crossett Lumber Company shows up and literally starts drawing straight lines all over the map.
It's a place where high timber means low morals.
And that setting is so crucial. The text emphasizes that the name Great Wilderness, it wasn't romantic. It was a description of absence.
Absence of roads, absence of law, absence of any predictable order. And Dude's philosophy of abiding is really just an attempt to create this perfect little bubble of stasis in a world defined by mud and unpredictable violence.
His whole goal is domestic tranquility, which in that context is basically a revolutionary act.
And that White Russian he drinks, the corn whiskey, chicory, and goat's milk, it's the perfect symbol. He's trying to maintain some semblance of a cultured life, adapting expensive tastes to cheap local stuff.
He's trying to stay soft in a world that demands you be hard, all wrapped up in a chenille robe that is both a statement of who he is and a complete tactical liability in a briar patch.
And you contrast that stasis with Watcher Subek's aggressive motion. Watcher's whole worldview is simple. There is no peace without constant vigilance.
Right.
So the soiled rug isn't just a mess to him, it is a violation of the perimeter.
So if you allow one small violation...
You invite total collapse. The quest for the rug is not a retrieval mission. It's a full-scale preemptive military operation against the forces of domestic anarchy.
You can just picture it. They've barely left the cabin, and Watcher's paranoia just takes over completely.
And this leads directly to the squirrel incident.
Which is just magnificent.
He drops into a combat crouch, pulls that massive Webley bulldog, and starts screaming, "Contact front!" at Elam, who is, trying to fish a digestive biscuit out of his goat's milk.
The target is?
A gray squirrel. But in Watcher's mind, this is no mere rodent. It's an invader, a carpetbagger rodent, and most dangerously, a scout conducting reconnaissance for northern interests.
The comedy is the sheer over-application of force. The Webley Bulldog is a weapon designed to stop a charging man, and he's using it for varmint control.
With what is essentially a hand cannon.
Yeah. So what happens?
The result is deafening. He misses the squirrel entirely, but he blows a hole in a sweet gum tree large enough to store a small ham. The sound, the smoke, the violence of it instantly upsets the species gold swine.
Okra.
Okra starts squealing in high anxiety distress.
And this is where Donnie Ray chimes in.
Perfectly. Amid the ringing silence and the screaming pig, Donnie Ray just says, "Market 0, over the line."
It's just, this perfect fusion of Watcher's rigidity and Donnie Ray's obsession with rules, but applied 20 years too early in the completely wrong context.
And of course, all this chaos attracts the law.
Or what passes for it. Sheriff Bain, who's described as looking like he was carved out of a very hard piece of hickory.
And smells faintly of gun oil and remorse. Yeah. And the sheriff, he's not worried about the philosophical fight against carpetbagger rodents. He's worried about the noise. Public nuisance.
But his real focus is social propriety, right?
Yeah.
He warns them they have to bypass the town of Hamburg.
He does, because the sight of Elam Dud in a stained dressing gown, traveling with an ex-Confederate soldier and an anxious pig eating biscuits, it would cause a full-blown riot among the Ladies' Temperance League.
It grounds the whole absurd journey in this real, period-specific moral panic. Dud's quest for leisure is on a collision course with Victorian propriety.
And Watcher's defense of Okra here is just priceless. He fights for the pig's social standing. The sheriff calls it a spotted pig, and Watcher corrects him with this violent intensity.
He insists.
Okra is a white and species gold swine. He needs that specific aristocratic title to justify the pig's delicate emotional state and the high cost of maintenance. He is literally arguing that the pig has a dignity that must be respected by the law.
That fight for dignity is a huge theme. He's trying to impose structure where there is none. So later that night, at camp, he's obsessed with creating a safe perimeter.
He strings up tin cans on a tripwire. He's invoking Latin, si vis pacem, para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. He's trying to build the foundations of Rome on gumbo clay.
But the wilderness is not impressed with his Latin.
Not at all. The comedy of errors is immediate. Watcher accidentally trips his own perimeter.
No.
Cans clatter everywhere. He discharges the Webley into the mud, covering himself in dirt and smoke.
So how does he save face?
He immediately blames the whole thing on a possum scout. Claims the creature executed a tactically brilliant feint, which forced his hand. His own failure is instantly recast as a successful defensive maneuver.
It's at this point that the real enemy is introduced, right? The philosophical one?
Yes, the nihilists. This is a startlingly deep concept for a story about a rug. Watcher links the arbitrary desecration of the rug to an entire philosophical movement.
He argues that these men who believe in nothing, who have no moral compass, they're capable of anything.
And he connects that intellectual void directly back to the privileged young treehorn who felt entitled enough to do what he did in the first place. For Watcher, this isn't just a property crime anymore. It's a grand existential battle against the void.
The forces of chaos are only just getting started. Because they're forced onto this muddy East Road to avoid the Temperance League, they run straight into their first real organized antagonist.
And it is a figure so out of place he's like a neon sign in the dark woods.
Enter Jesse Quintana.
The description is just fantastic. He's a visual assault on the drab piney woods, wearing electric purple wool, a color that would be impossible to find and maintain in 1895 rural Arkansas.
And he's standing there polishing a 9-pin bowling ball,
Yeah.
which shouldn't even exist.
No. And he smells of lavender water and aggressive self-confidence.
Who's this guy?
The source gives us his backstory. 6 months in Chico County for exposing himself to a 4-H club. He's a criminal, he's absurd, and he's defined by this fanatical obsession with perfection in a sport that doesn't belong there.
And his threat is all about destiny and competition. He warns Elam he's entering a world of pain.
His creed is simple and just full of self-aggrandizement. The Jesus will scour the lanes. The Jesus will leave no pin standing.
It's the formal intrusion of the bowling subplot, from the Dids LA forebear into the deadly seriousness of this frontier quest. And the whole thing is set by that one chilling line.
Nobody messes with the Jesus.
As if meeting a lavender-scented, purple-clad bowling fanatic wasn't enough, the physical world just continues to punish them.
Watcher's military logic is completely useless against Arkansas topography. His journey is just a series of tactical failures.
Which brings us to the tactical fording of Mistake Creek.
Right. Watcher is determined to cross without getting the cart wet. His solution, based on some dubious military history, is to grease the entire cart with rendered bear grease for buoyancy.
Which, of course, does not make it buoyant.
No, it just makes it incredibly slick and creates this iridescent, foul-smelling grease slick downstream.
And then it gets worse. He blindfolds Bronchi the donkey with a pair of Donnie Ray's long johns.
Because, as Watcher explains, a blindfolded donkey cannot be frightened by the appearance of rushing water.
I mean, the logic is something.
It is an utter disaster. The cart takes on water immediately, the grease fails, Donnie Ray drops General Beauregard the rooster into the current. Okra, sensing peak panic, scrambles into the mud.
They make it across.
They do. But only after reaching the maximum possible physical and psychological distress. Watcher, of course, logs it in his mind as a successful amphibious assault.
That strain leaves them vulnerable, and that leads directly to the horseshoe skirmish at Snyder's Bluff.
Watcher believes himself to be a champion horseshoe pitcher. He challenges a local church deacon, Eustace Smoky Pugh.
He claims he was the champion of the Vicksburg League, right?
Until the tournament was, quote, prematurely canceled by a direct hit from Union mortar fire. He insists on the purity of his skill. But Smoky, this humble deacon, is inhumanly good. He's throwing perfect ringers without even looking.
And Watcher is just systematically crushed.
And once his superiority is challenged, his obsession with rules turns into a violent rage. He loses the game, pulls the Webley Bulldog on the deacon, screaming about the implied line of the horseshoe pit and the sanctity of league game rules.
But the near homicide is stopped by the pig.
By Okra. The pig's stress levels, triggered by the shouting, spike so dramatically he lets out a squeal described as being like a steam whistle signaling a boiler explosion. The Specie Gold swine's sensitive constitution once again overrides Watcher's tactical agenda. The dignity of the animal prevents the murder of a church deacon.
So moving on from that, they stumble upon a clue. At Carter's stand, a little roadside shack.
Donnie Ray finds this muddy piece of paper. It's a penitentiary homework assignment written 100 times. I will not spit in class. signed by an 8-year-old Arthur Bigby Sellers.
And for Dude, this is just a weird thing they found.
For Watcher, this is the smoking gun. This is the Rosetta Stone of the entire conspiracy.
His theory is
That this 8-year-old boy is the intellectual architect behind the rug defilement. Treehorn was just the muscle. He connects a bored, delinquent child to philosophical nihilism and a grand conspiracy against the dude's floor covering.
which leads to maybe the weirdest scene in the whole text, the confrontation with the mastermind.
They find Arthur Digby Sellers confined to a galvanic respiration chest. It's this strange, coffin-like box with hoses and bellows for his weak lungs.
It's this surreal, almost steampunk image, and Watcher convinced this is just a ploy for sympathy.
He enters the room in a blind fury. He starts screaming about disrespect, societal hygiene, the social contract.
But wait a minute. He just nearly shot a deacon over a game of horseshoes, and now he's lecturing a sick 8-year-old about hygiene?
The hypocrisy is thick, but Watcher is beyond that. His rage escalates. He starts smashing porcelain heirlooms in the parlor, shouting, "This is what happens when you violate the social contract."
Good boy.
The boy, completely safe inside his respiration box, just silently sticks his tongue out at him.
And that's it. That's what defeats him.
The boy's passive, nonverbal defiance completely incapacitates the hypervigilant soldier. They have to retreat, defeated by a piece of equipment and a stuck-out tongue.
So the narrative takes a darker turn here. It moves away from these local eccentrics and towards this bigger corporate threat. They finally get to Marie Saline Landing.
And it's dead. The steamboat, the city of Camden, now docks 12 miles north at a place called Longview.
So all the miles, all the chaos, for nothing.
Exactly. They need a 12-mile tactical pivot north. And Watcher, who absolutely refuses to be humiliated by backtracking through Hamburg and facing Sheriff Bain again.
He makes a disastrous decision.
He chooses to cut directly through the dense, unmapped Saline River bottoms, the hypotenuse, the most dangerous, thickest part of the Great Wilderness.
He fears this area, right? He calls it a heart of darkness.
But the choice means they are now walking directly into the path of industrialization.
But before the steam engine, they get one last confrontation with the old threats. The nihilists.
They return, now wet and angry, having followed them to Panther Creek. The Panther Creek boys, "We believe in nothing. They're desperate. They demand the money," or failing that, the pig.
The Spiffy Gold Swine.
And they threaten to use a live, snarling animal.
Which is a ferret.
Or maybe just a very angry rat. It's not clear. But it doesn't matter, because Watcher pulls the Webley. He is ready for a full, bloody engagement against the philosophical void.
But salvation comes not from strategy, but from chaos.
Pure, edible chaos.
Mhm.
Donnie Ray panics. He grabs the only weapon he can find, the unit's chemical warfare. A jar of pickled eggs.
Oh, no.
He hurls it at the nihilist's leader. It misses him and shatters against a hollow cypress log behind him.
And the consequences.
Immediate and hysterical. A massive black bear, covered head to toe in vinegar and pickled egg bits, erupts from the hollow log.
It was sleeping in there.
Apparently, and it was just rudely awakened and seasoned. The bear, irritated and hungry, eats the snarling ferret rat thing in a single bite.
And the nihilists.
The sight of an angry omnivore that smells like a bar snack is too much for them. Their belief in nothing evaporates instantly when faced with superior, vinegar-drenched biological aggression. They retreat into the creek, philosophically defeated.
After this, they stumble, exhausted, into a tent revival.
And Elam Dud, stained and rumpled but still in his purple robe, is mistaken for a prophet. The Reverend hails him as Elijah, the Abitur, this messianic figure emerging from the wilderness.
But that moment of dignity is immediately shattered.
By the pig.
By Okra. Drawn by the smell of carbohydrates, the anxious pig walks straight to the altar and consumes the communion wafers directly from the silver tray. You just hear this crunch.
It's not just sacrilege, it's a profound violation.
The congregation explodes, and Watcher, in his most bizarre protective stance yet, draws his revolver on a deacon who's trying to get the tray back. He screams, "Drop the hymnal! Step away from the specie gold!"
He's enforcing the pig's right to digestive freedom.
It's separation of church and swine. The result is that Okra has a terrible night. He suffers a hangover of biblical proportions the next morning.
And just when you think it can't get worse, their cart collapses.
A catastrophic failure. The linchpin snaps. Watcher, with surprising ingenuity, has to sacrifice his lucky iron U.S. Army spoon to use as an expedient axle pin.
Which creates the shrieking spoon axle.
Yes! The cart works, but it now announces their approach with a high-pitched, grinding, metallic scream. And this happens at the exact moment they see them. The large white X's on the trees.
The grid is here. Cap Gates, the timber speculator, has marked the land for cutting. It's the end of the Doods' chaotic wilderness and the arrival of the railroad.
And they meet Knox Harrington, the turpentine artist, who is giggling maniacally and documenting the agony of the pine. He's finding artistic inspiration in the forest's destruction.
And this leads to yet another pig crisis.
Of course. Ochre gets stuck to a cat face, one of those V-shaped incisions in a pine tree used to collect sap. The resin just glues him to the trunk.
So how do they get him off?
Watcher has to use his high-proof corn whiskey goat's milk mixture, the dude's own White Russian, as a solvent to liberate the swine.
The sacred drink of the abider becomes the chemical solution to save the pig.
And then the future announces itself with a roar. A steam locomotive, a massive Baldwin 260 Mogul, is blocking the road. Watcher attacks the Iron Horse with his Webley, screaming about federal regulations.
They're forced into an absurd race. This screaming spoon axle car versus the steam engine through a swamp to get to Tent City.
Which the source calls a mobile capitalist dystopia. And in this dystopia, they face the real enemy, the closed economy.
They can't buy anything.
Because the commissary only accepts Brussels, the Crosset Lumber Company script.
And this is what really sets Watcher off.
It is, because this is a closed economic loop. Workers are paid in currency they can only spend at the company's store. It's trapping them. Watcher calls it feudalism. He recognizes that the freedom of the frontier is being replaced by a rigid corporate bondage.
The final confrontation is with Cap Gates himself, the architect of this grid.
And Gates doesn't fight them. He doesn't even argue. He recognizes Dood, and he gives him a gold coin, a simple, old-fashioned bribe to buy a new axle and just disappear.
He's paying him for professional non-existence.
Exactly. He sees Dood's chaos as just an embarrassing little problem to be routed around and silenced with cash. The grid doesn't need to conquer the Dood. It just needs him to stop being messy. And Dood accepts the gold.
So despite the bribe, they push on. And they arrive as the physical manifestation of the future, the survey site.
It's the geometrical center of the future company town. It's marked with strings and coordinates, Maine and Arkansas, the literal birth of the grid.
And Watcher, defeated by the economic abstraction, turns his rage back to the physical.
He tries to fight the concept of geometry itself by trying to uproot the central stake, screaming, "I'm gonna pistol whip the geometry."
But the stake is driven too deep.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And the irony is, Elam notices that Ochre, the anxious species-gold swine, is walking a perfect straight line along one of the surveyor's strings. He's inadvertently collaborating with the new order.
But the climax shifts back to that absurd sport, the prophecy of the Jesus.
At Longview, the steamboat is waiting, but they're blocked by Jesse Quintana and the now wet, perpetually angry nihilists.
And the challenge is set. A sudden death bowling duel.
The lane is the slick, tallow-greased log chute leading down to the river. The pins are whiskey bottles. It's bowling transposed onto the frontier.
Jesse throws his perfectly polished wooden ball, a perfect, powerful strike. It seems impossible for Elam to win.
But Elam's counter-strategy is, it's pure genius. It's harnessing chaos. He rejects a traditional ball and picks a slightly overripe watermelon.
Watch him out.
He launches it down the chute. It wobbles wildly, looks like it's going to fall off, but then it stabilizes. It hits the cluster of whiskey bottles, and it explodes.
It explodes.
A tidal wave of watermelon juice and seeds just sweeps all the remaining bottles off the slick chute. It's an absurd technical strike, a victory achieved by entropy and fruit physics.
So he wins the right to abide.
He does.
Yeah.
But the narrative moves so quickly from that comedic victory to this profound loss. On the King's Road, heading home, Donnie Ray collapses.
A sudden coronary event or aneurysm?
Yeah. The man whose mind existed only in the future of bowling and the concept of the walrus, he dies instantly. His final words are barely audible. "I want to roll."
It's just a quiet, sudden end.
Yeah.
And now they have to decide what to do.
Watcher Sobek, ever the pragmatist, insists on cremation to make Donnie Ray portable. This leads to this very grim transaction with Switzel, the local undertaker, who is also a cabinet maker.
And this is where the mundane just becomes so powerful they can't afford an urn.
No, they have to settle on the only durable, vacuum-sealed tin available, a red Folgers coffee can.
And the text calls it.
Our most modestly priced receptacle.
Wow. That phrase.
Hmm.
It just lands. It fuses this cheap, mass-produced reality with this ancient, profound ritual of loss. The dreamer of the group is reduced to ashes in a coffee tin.
So the final ritual is on the highest bluff overlooking the river. It's the closest they can get to the ocean Donnie Ray dreamed of. Watcher delivers a solemn eulogy. He tries to scatter the ashes with dignity.
And in the final, perfect act of cosmic rejection.
A sudden, powerful gust of wind catches the contents of the can. The gray cloud of ash and bone fragments slams directly into Elam Dud's face.
Covering his robe, everything. And he shouts,
"I'm inhaling the walrus!" Even in this moment of profound grief, the Arkansas wilderness just refuses to grant them any dignity.
but the loop is closed. The travois, pulled by Bronchi, finally returns to the cabin. It's bearing the empty Folgers can, and miraculously, the original soiled rug, which they found floating downstream.
Elam sets the new Persian rug down in the bare room.
It really ties the room together, he says. He did it. Domestic tranquility is restored. He fought the war of existence not by conquering the railroad, but by choosing to remain still. He chooses to just abide.
And the stranger, who's been watching from the porch, returns for the final word. He confirms Donnie Ray's passing, a hard strike to pick up, and acknowledges the coming change, the graph paper hearts of the lumber company.
And his conclusion is the ultimate validation of Dud's whole philosophy. He calls Elam the dude, a man who knows how to wear a bathrobe in a briar patch and keep his dignity.
And then the stranger tips his hat and heads west, towards that imagined future of bowling alleys in Oklahoma or California, leaving Elam Dud behind.
Having proven that sometimes the most effective strategy against chaos is just sheer determined stasis.
This deep dive is so fascinating because it connects these completely different cultural touchstones. You have the high philosophy of the Lebowski narrative nihilism versus abiding, and you ground it in the low, hard comedy of the American frontier.
Right. Pig anxiety, stump water,
Yeah.
using fruit as a weapon in a bowling duel.
And for those who appreciate that Portis style, that blend of historical fact, grim realism, and just deadpan absurdity,
Yeah.
this story is a masterclass.
The setting, post-Reconstruction Ashley County, is the perfect stage for it.
And the story acts as this profound microcosm of the closing of the frontier. The chaotic, lawless wilderness that allowed Watcher's paranoia to even exist is being replaced by the rigid straight lines, the grid of corporate progress.
The Did didn't win by fighting. He won by outlasting the immediate threat until the bigger, inevitable one just arrived and rolled over everything else.
So the enduring philosophy is the victory of stasis. Ultimate success is surviving long enough to secure the right rug, sit on your porch, and sip a terrible drink. Elam Dud chose to become the unmoving bump that the entire corporate engine just had to drive around.
He secured his internal peace against an external war.
And that persistence leads us to our final provocative thought. The source text gives this really stark warning. Though Watcher fought the lumber company, you can't stop the future, no more than you can stop the overflow creek when the rains come.
So we have to ask you, what happens to the philosophy of abiding when the chaos you resisted becomes the new, rigid order?
Once that grid is fully laid, does the comfort of the rug remain a personal victory, or does it just become another measured, taxed, and categorized commodity, waiting for the next surveyor's stake?
Something to think about the next time you consider the simple joy of a floor covering that really ties your room together. That's all for this deep dive into the weird and wonderful wilderness of Arkansas. We'll see you next time.